Hello everyone, and welcome to our World Cancer Day webinar. This is something that is really important to us, as World Cancer Day empowers all of us all over the world to show support and raise our collective voice, take personal action, and press our governments to really do more for all the brave cancer warriors out there and their families. World Cancer Day is the only day on the global health calendar where we can all unite and rally under the one banner of cancer in a positive and inspiring way. And I really think that this is what this webinar is all about. We're going to be hearing from patients, caregivers, and then of course our wonderful oncologists, just to round everything off at the end and really giving us an insight from a medical perspective. I'm really honored to introduce our first speaker today, who's Mari. She had stage 4 breast cancer that has metastasized, and she currently has activity in her one lung and liver. It started off with just bone mets, and the cancer spread from her left breast to her right hip. So Mari has an absolutely amazing and inspiring story to share with all of us. And Mari, take it away. Thank you so much.
Okay, as you know now, my name is Marie Besaidenout. I'll start off with the non-cancery stuff. I enjoy traveling, camping, 4x4ing, scuba diving, country living, jewelry making, dogs, reading, food, friends and family. I've been married to my best friend and greatest supporter for 22 years, and we live in a tiny village in the Overberg called Napier. As you've heard, I have stage 4 or advanced or metastatic breast cancer, MBC for short. This means that my original breast cancer, which was early stage, spread beyond the breast into other areas of my body. I currently have activity in my one lung and in my liver. As you heard, it started off with just bone mets. And I still have breast cancer. When you look at the lung cancer or the liver cancer, it's still breast cancer cells. So it's still breast cancer. It's been more than 6 years of me living despite cancer and cancer treatments. Initially, it was curable. I was diagnosed in 2015 at the age of 42. And the last 4 years, I've been living with incurable but treatable stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. Despite being deemed incurable, despite the debilitating non-stop treatments and inconvenient regularly being poked and prodded and tested and scanned, there's still a lot of living to be had. And I strive to live the best life that I can while I can, despite cancer. Just a quick bit of background: people affected by MBC are treated for life. The objective is control of the disease and quality of life. People like me with MBC, we never have a life after cancer. We will always have a life with cancer. Yes, sometimes we stumble upon an effective treatment that works. We might even be lucky enough to reach a state called NED, no evidence of disease, or NEAD, no evidence of active disease. This doesn't mean that we don't have cancer anymore. It just means that we managed to put the beast to sleep for a little while. For how long, no one really knows, but it will wake up one day and then the whole process starts over again. So at the moment, I'm stable. I had a scan last week, and against all odds, we weren't expecting it. For someone else, this might be devastating to hear there's no change. For me, it's the best news I could possibly have hoped for. And the words stable disease and decidedly unchanged was magical to my ears. So our version of good news differs from what people might expect. But here's something I've learned since living despite cancer. Happiness is a choice. We can experience happiness regardless of our circumstances and our surroundings. When diagnosed with cancer, many people feel an increase in stress, and it can easily become chronic. Research now suggests that chronic stress can actually make cancer spread faster. Stress can speed up the process of cancer throughout the body, especially in ovarian, breast, and colorectal cancer. The thing is, most people have heard of the term fight or flight response. It's the way our bodies react to danger or what we perceive it as danger. But many people haven't heard of the rest and digest response. This system activates the more tranquil functions of the body that helps us maintain a long-term healthy balance. So fight or flight prepares our bodies for action, and our bodies go through quite a few changes when this is activated to make us ready to fight or run. The non-essential systems like digestion and immunity are given a much lower priority because you've got to survive first. The problem is nowadays, things we perceive as danger, it could be something like being stuck in traffic or someone hooting at you and you get that flush or rush of stress. We're going into fight or flight mode so much more, and the rest and digest system is being completely neglected. And this is what we need to actually heal. Researchers now know that there's an immediate and powerful connection between the mind and the body. First, our deep-seated beliefs lead us to feel emotions such as joy or fear or stress, and these create an instant burst of hormones in our brains. These hormones tell our bodies what to do. When we feel fear or stress, the hormones tell our bodies to go into fight or flight mode. But when we feel joy or love, the hormones tell our bodies to spend time repairing broken cells, digesting food, and healing infection. And the thing is, these two modes are exclusive, mutually exclusive. You're either busy repairing or you're busy fighting. So I'm a bit of a strange one. I abhor the metaphors that come with cancer. I don't consider myself a warrior, and I'm not sure who I'm supposed to be fighting because it's my own body. So who's the enemy here? And all living things die. It's a normal occurrence. But why is it that only cancer patients lose the battle? The war metaphors prevalent in cancer encourage a fight or flight response. And as we've seen, being in fight or flight mode, you can't focus on healing. So I live despite cancer. I don't really like to think about fighting it. I try to heal my body, and by healing, I don't mean curing. So I just get on with my life and do my thing. I call myself a lifer. I'm currently on Xeloda oral chemo. I've been on it for 25 months. And the last 13, 14 months, it's been a metronomic dose, which means it's a continuous dose. I don't get any breaks. I'm tolerating it quite well, and it's keeping me stable. So yes, I'm in it for life. And I'd like to finish off with a quote by Stuart Scott. He said it best. When you die, it doesn't mean that you lose to cancer. You beat cancer by how you live, why you live, and the manner in which you live.
That was absolutely inspiring. And I think I love that you say you live despite cancer. It's not, you're not allowing it to define you. I think that really is so beautiful. What advice do you have for people who are newly diagnosed or have just received the news that they have cancer?
Right. One of the things that I would like to say is there's still a misconception out there that you somehow caused it. And whether it's curable or whether it's gotten to the stage where I am, often it makes it less scary for people to think that you did something wrong or you didn't do something you should have done. A very, very, very small percentage of breast cancer is hereditary. And even though lifestyle does have an influence, and of course you've got to live healthy, but vegans get it, yoga instructors get it, men get breast cancer, young women get it, old women get it. So we only have so much control over it. So the first thing when you are diagnosed, it's of course a huge shock. No one expects it. I didn't expect it at all. Is to just ease up on yourself. It's very rarely something you did or didn't do. So to get rid of that feeling. And then the best advice I can give that I still try and practice today is, I call it, don't fret too far into the future. When you look at the big picture, it's quite overwhelming and it's really scary. if you can think just a day ahead or plan just a day ahead, or if you can make a list and tick off small steps so that you feel you're making progress. The worst time by far is when tests are being done to determine what stage of disease you've got. Even when you progress, whether you're early stage or late stage, waiting for test results, you can ask anyone, it's their worst nightmare. So that once you've got that info, once you sort of know what you're dealing with, it feels like you're gaining back a little bit of control. I'm one of those people who like to know exactly what needs to be done. I like to understand my disease as far as I can. Because in a situation where you have very little control, sort of knowing that, right, we're doing radiation because it's going to happen, and I'm doing so many sessions because we're trying to do that, it sort of feels like you're gaining back a little bit of control. I've also found it, another thing that I found is much easier, even though you might not want to tell people in the beginning, it can get quite exhausting trying to keep it a secret or trying to think what you should say or shouldn't say. I'm obviously living with it for so long, I'm quite open about it and I just blurt it out. And because I don't necessarily look ill, a lot of people are quite shocked by it, but it's a huge relief for me to just be able to speak about it. So even if you don't feel comfortable doing that with everyone, at least do it with someone.
Absolutely. And I think having a support system is vital. And that's one of the things that we actually wanted to touch on was the importance of having a support system. I know you spoke about your wonderful partner who has been there for you throughout this whole thing. Why do you think a support system is so important? Why do you think, I understand what you say, some people are scared to speak about the fact that they do have cancer, but how does having that support system help you through every single day?
Right. Today's a good day. I look good. I feel good. You do have crappy days. I normally am quite exuberant and happy. I have days where I feel really sorry for myself. And having another person there, having someone who sort of gets it, it's handy if it's someone like a husband who's been around quite a while. But he knows when to say, some days I just want someone to say, oh, poor you, just lie down, I'll bring you a cup of tea. Other days you need someone to tell you, oh, please, just flipping get over it, you're being over dramatic, whatever. It's hard doing it on your own. Humans aren't supposed to deal with stuff on their own. We're sociable animals, and it makes the burden easier. Just talking about it, even if some people find quite a bit of encouragement through support groups. I've gone to a few in-person support groups, but it was before COVID and things have become quite difficult. But some of the online support groups are quite good. And I've actually got a few friends who are metastatic, whom I've never actually met in real life. But we have long WhatsApp conversations, and it's just someone who gets it. You know, if you say, oh, flip, these horrible side effects, I feel so bloated, I feel like the bloody Oros man or something. It's just someone that'll say, oh, yes, that's terrible, I hate it. You know, it's not that you want people to fix things. It's just you want someone to listen to you and just sit with you. And it makes it a hell of a lot easier to handle.
Thank you. That's beautiful. We've got so many positive feedbacks in this chat here. Absolutely beautiful, Mari. I agree with you. As a survivor, I've also chosen to eliminate the words like fight, battle, war from my vocabulary. Brilliant testimony.
Good.
We've got a question here from Marianne, which is what has been the hardest part of your cancer journey?
To be honest with you, the whole idea, the stage 4 diagnosis, I'm a weird one. You might have heard of tumor markers. They're blood tests that doctors do. A lot of doctors don't pay much attention to them because they're not accurate for everyone. I was blessed and cursed with an extremely accurate, extremely sensitive CA marker, which has probably twice or 3 times in the 6 years picked up progression a good 9 months before they could find it on scans. So initially, even though I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer in March of 2018, We knew as early as July of 2017, literally my doctor's words were, you have cancer somewhere, but until we can find it on a scan, we can't treat it because we don't know what we're dealing with. So living with that, trying to avoid becoming stage 4, but sort of having over you that you probably have it already, was really hard. And I obsessed about doing everything I could possibly do not to progress. And I actually forgot to enjoy life. And I mean, the whole point of us doing all the crap we're doing is to survive and to enjoy life. So, yeah, that was the hardest part, living with it. It was actually almost a relief to be diagnosed stage 4, because you can ask a lot of the early stages and a lot of people who've been cancer-free for years. They still have worries and stress about it progressing to stage 4. And because stage 4 is terminal, it's obviously not good news, but it was almost a relief to know that that was it. Because now, in a small way, it's like, well, it can't get much worse. Of course it can, but yeah, so that was, for me, that was the hardest part, coming to terms with supposedly being dead. And since then, I've lost quite a few friends. Some of them did have cancer, but some of them died unexpectedly. It was a shock each time, and I realized deep down I was actually expecting to die first. And yes, all of us are dying, but we're just much more, we're confronted with it more in your face. So it's just finding a balance between being afraid of dying and not letting that stop you from living, if you get what I'm saying.
Absolutely. And yeah, I love that, just to keep living every single moment of every single day. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. If you can stay on, we have got some questions, but I'm going to move on to the next speaker, and then hopefully we can do some more questions at the end. Thank you. Lo Maria, if you don't mind putting on your camera. So next up we have Liesel that's going to be speaking to us. Liesel is a 32-year-old qualified chartered accountant, and she has been living with lung cancer since the age of 29. 6 months later, it spread to her brain, and she is a non-smoker, so getting lung cancer obviously unexpected, and her cancer is only treatable, unfortunately not curable. Are you able to start your camera for us so we can see you while you're speaking, Liesel?
I did start it. Can anyone see it?
No, we can't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay. Give us 2 minutes.
No problem at all. Thank you. Shame. I know with load shedding, it's made everything a little bit more complicated than what we had hoped for.
And we're doing it currently from my sister's phone, so I'm trying to activate the camera, but it seems no.
Okay. Well, if you want to start speaking, and we can try and figure this out as we're going, but we would really love to hear a little bit more about your story. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for making a plan in the middle of load shedding.
No problem. So I was diagnosed at the age of 30, so I have it now for 2 years. I was super fit, and then suddenly I got a pain in my chest, and I thought it's nothing, it's just muscle. Being super fit and exercising twice a day, it's nothing. And it continued, and eventually it didn't got better. So I went to work one day, and I ordered the mines, and we had like a mine visit to go underground. And then after that, I came out and I phoned my sister and said, I don't feel well. And she said, okay, drive to the doctor and go see the doctor. And that is what I did. And he diagnosed me first with bronchitis. 3 days later, I was diagnosed with pneumonia. And I remember it was the World Cup that year in 2019. That evening, I didn't get better. I slept the whole World Cup through. I luckily was awake the last 10 minutes, which was the minutes we won in. And she took me to the hospital. The first specialist was absolutely shocking. In 4 days, we didn't see him once, and she had enough, and we discharged me from that hospital and admitted me to hospital number 2. There, the night I saw 2 specialists, 10 o'clock the night, and the thoracic surgeon said to me, this is 2 things. You either have TB or you have cancer, but I have to do a biopsy because I can't see any of them on a X-ray or a CT scan machine. So the next morning we went for the biopsy. So he said, you will do, what was it called?
A bronchoscopy.
A bronchoscopy if you can get through the throat. If you can't, you have to do the biopsy and cut me under my arm. Needless to say, he couldn't get through my throat. It was there was tumor there, and he had to do the biopsy. He waited for me to wake up in recovery, and then he said to me, you have lung cancer. That is not TB. And then we started treatment, and we went through the whole exercise, which everyone probably know. And 6 months later, I got brain cancer. And then I had 3 times radiation until this year, December, as I got very, very sick, throw up the whole time, headache the whole time, don't eat. And got admitted to the hospital again, and got a December surgeon to look over me, and he said to me, you might as well start getting your stuff ready. You will have 3 months to live. We can't do anything for you anymore. So he said, go into palliative care, quit everything, quit your job, give everything up, make sure your everything is in order. So if you pass away, everyone knows what they're getting. Start telling your parents. We will give you about 3 months. I went to see my oncologist when she came back from holiday, and I had a discussion with her, and I said to her, I'm not ready to give up. So she found a specialist, a neurosurgeon, and which was willing to operate because I had 2 tumors on the brain. So medically, they will only operate if you've got 1, and the 1 must be at least 3 millimeters. I had 1, I had actually 2, and they were about 3 millimeters. So went to see him, he said, fine, I'll operate, but here's the risk to it. You might not come out, you might come out, you might lose some of your senses, you might lose your eyesight. I cannot tell you what you're gonna lose. There's no precision. And he said to me, get everything in order for in case. That was 10 days ago. So it's successful. No brain cancer anymore, nothing. Yeah. So I took a big risk, but definitely worth it.
You've given me absolute goosebumps and tears in my eyes. I can't believe it, Liesl. That is amazing. So 10 days ago, you were having this massive operation, and you're out of hospital now. And how are you feeling?
Sorry, it's not 10 days. Today is day 14 post-op.
Okay.
How are you feeling, Liesl?
Feeling good. Very little headaches. I still have my dips of bad days where I said to my sister, it's not the same headache. It feels like, okay, so the wound is from left to right, but it feels like someone has went and put in rod steels from up to down on your skull. So your skull feels very heavy, but it's just all the swelling on it. So you have to wait until the swelling goes off. So every day is a little bit better.
And what do you think was the scariest part of going in for this operation? Was it were you more nervous about not making it through, or the fact that he might not be able to get out the cancer, or losing your sight? What do you think was your fear going into it?
I think personally, hindsight is 20/20 vision. One, I think I was in my own little unicorn world and didn't actually really think about it, because it was within a week's time, everything was sorted, we were ready, I was admitted. So you didn't have really much time to think, should I do it, should I not do it? We decided we're going to do it one evening with my parents. So there wasn't a lot of time to decide or to feel anything, which is weird. And then the evening or the morning they rolled me to the theater, I wasn't even scared, because I realized if I don't wake up, I'm not going to realize it. And whatever I lose, we can try and gain again. I've lost certain stuff, like I'm not allowed to drive anymore, because with that, I had epilepsy beforehand, and it stayed. So they don't want me to have that risk. But otherwise, I think my family was more nervous. It was a 8-hour surgery. So I think,
Goodness me.
yeah, I think they nearly didn't make it.
Sure. Yeah, that's really incredible. And it's amazing that you had that strength to go through it, and that you have a wonderful family that was there supporting you every single step of the way.
Yes, I think
the
worst part is with,
sorry?
I think the worst part is with COVID, that your family can't be at theater or wait for you in the hospital. They have to sit, wait outside.
Yeah, yeah. So they can't come in and actually hold your hand or be there as you wheeled in or wheeled out.
No.
So you told us how your lungs were hurting and you were battling to breathe before you got your diagnosis of lung cancer. How did you know, or did you have a feeling that it had spread before they diagnosed your brain cancer?
We knew it spread because one evening I got a very bad epileptic fit. And then my sister took me to hospital, and the next morning I had to go for an MRI. And we found an oncologist, and then she came out and said, no, it's spread to your brain.
Wow. Sure. Liesl, you are incredibly brave, and it really was such an honor to hear your journey and how you are just such a warrior, and you haven't let this get you down. Or I can hear your smile, even though I can't see you. I can hear your smile and your joy and your zest for life, and it really is such an honor. So thank you. We're going to move on to your sister now. Lo Marie is the sister and caregiver to her baby sister, Liesl. She loves to play hockey as a hobby, and she's a really fun, loving, outgoing person. And she's going to be speaking to us what it's like to be a caregiver of someone living with cancer.
I can sum it up in one word: strenuous. But in the end, all worth it. You know, and you literally just have to roll with the punches. Some days are better than others, and you enjoy the good days and just battle on through the bad days, because after the bad days have passed, the good days will come rolling in again. So I must say it is something that is rewarding in so many ways that is not monetary in value.
Absolutely. And I think you guys sound like you have a really strong sibling relationship, and I think that's something really special. Have you guys always had that good relationship? Have you always been close? Have you always been that protective big sister? Tell us a little bit more about your journey together.
Yeah, there's a 12-year difference between the two of us. So I've always been the big sister. As children, we didn't get along too well, but as grown-ups, she's literally my shadow, and we look very similar as well. And now with all her hair that's been off, the similarity is even more more evident now. So yeah, I don't think we would be able to function without one another.
And how has it been for you, like with seeing your baby sister going through all of this, that you can see her pain and you can see her stress and like going into this big operation? What kind of impact has that had on you emotionally, physically, all of that?
I cannot tell you that she showed any stress going into this operation. I think she lost a bit touch with reality, and everything happening so fast and with everything happening around us, there wasn't much time to cope. When we saw the doctor on the Thursday, by the Friday we had to give him an answer, and by the Sunday she was admitted to hospital. So I don't think Liesel actually understands the amount of stress the rest of us have gone through, and I think and the rest of the family have gone through. I think it was much worse for us being family members than it was actually for her going through this entire process. And I must say, I've got a couple of gray hairs extra.
That's the joy of being the older sister. So I'm the baby sister, and I completely get that. And my sister would probably say that I've given her gray hairs. So that absolutely, I can understand that. And I understand the stress. Well, I don't fully understand, but I can begin to understand the stress that you as a family went through with Liesel's different diagnoses and going in for this operation. What advice do you have for families or for caregivers of people who have just received a new cancer diagnosis?
My best piece of advice is never give up. Just ride the emotional roller coaster. An answer will come eventually. Maybe not the answer that you want, but an answer will come. And it will come at exactly the right time when you need that answer. So just don't ever give up. That's the best advice I can give anybody.
And cancer is mostly a mind game. If you can overcome the mind game, you're fine. And as well, I was the operation and you can get a puppy. And I've been asking for a puppy the last 6 years and it wasn't no. So I'm finally getting my puppy.
Yay! Then you must share the photo of it with all of us and we can all celebrate with you with your cute little puppy.
Yes, that was also the first thing I said to her when I came out of theaters. I'm getting a puppy.
I love that. I love your positivity, Liesel. You are absolutely amazing. And I really think having that positive outlook and having such a strong support system around you, it sort of pulls you through all of these difficult times.
Yes.
We've just got a comment here from Colleen who says, Liesel, thank you so much for sharing. The two of you remind me of the song with the lyrics, sisters are doing it for themselves. Keep the love going, sisters, and all the best for you, Liesel, and your family members as well. And of course, that puppy that is going to be coming very soon. Are there any other words of advice or any other bits from your journey that you want to share with us?
Take it second by second. Don't worry about the future. Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow might be not be alive, and I mean not die of cancer. A bus can eat you. It can be so stupid. So just focus 10 seconds at a time. Whatever you want to do this 10 seconds.
So true. And now the question's just evaded my mind. Marie, do you have any words of advice while I try and remember what question I was going to ask?
I would say my words of advice is stop referring to it as cancer. It's just another disease. It's a long-term disease, and cancer already gives a certain stigma to it. you know you're going to live with this forever. But if you contracted HIV or diabetes or any other autoimmune disease, your chances of surviving are similar. So we don't refer to the word cancer in our house at all, not because we're ignorant of the fact of Liesel's diagnosis. We've just like made peace with the fact that this is a long-term illness, and we'll deal with it. She was going to live with it for the rest of her life, and none of us know how long that is going to be.
I love that. I love the fact that you are taking it day by day and ensuring that you guys have the rest of your lives together in a good space. I think that's really important. The question I was going to ask is, why do you think awareness of cancer and of getting checked and going to doctors and listening to your gut when you know that something's not right, why do you think that is so important?
Because most people pick it up when it's too late. And that's the problem. I think I've read a few lung cancer articles, and most people take 18 months to be diagnosed. I was diagnosed in less than a month, which makes me really lucky. And don't think because you don't smoke, you won't get lung cancer, because that's just absolute nonsense.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of misconceptions around that. So thank you for breaking those stigmas and for speaking out about this. I really do appreciate it. If I could ask the two of you to stay on in case there are any more questions that come through at the end. We are going to move across to our doctor, our beautiful oncologist for the night, for the evening. Tobile, would you mind putting your screen on, and then we can chat a little bit. There we go.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. I'm just going to do a quick introduction to you. I hope I don't butcher your surname. I'm really sorry, and you are welcome to correct me. This is Dr. Tobile Gobamjwara. Is that close? Okay. She's a clinical and radiation oncologist, and she works at the Oncology Center Oncocare in Durban, KZN. She's from Pietermaritzburg, which is where I'm from too, so I feel like we have a little bit of heartstrings together there. And she currently resides in Durban. She obtained her undergraduate medical degree from the University of KZN in 2009, and then moved to Cape Town in 2017, where she completed her specialist training in radiation oncology and Master of Medicine in Radiation Oncology in 2021 at Tygerberg Hospital at Stellenbosch University. She has an absolute passion in holistic cancer patient management. Thank you for coming here. Thank you for giving up your evening, and thank you for all that you are doing for cancer patients everywhere. You are truly a very, very special woman, and I am so excited to hear more in your presentation.
Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction, and good evening to everyone. I'd start off by just thanking our two special patients for sharing your stories. Both your stories are very inspirational, and all the patients that are either still at the early stages of their treatment, newly diagnosed, undergoing treatment, you've actually made an impact in their lives by actually sharing your stories and the challenges that you faced. And I sure hope that all that was said will be taken in, and people will be able to accept their diagnoses as well as to have their family on board to support them. I'll just go on to discussing a few broad things with regards to cancer so that everyone understands where we are. I'll try to keep it as simple and not make it too medical for everyone to understand. So I will just share my screen with everyone. Here we go. Okay, so I'd like you to please share the screen for me, because I seem to have a technical issue here.
No problem at all. I'm just busy opening it and then I'll share it and you can just tell me when to click through.
Sure, thank you. Okay, we can go to the next slide. I think everyone knows who I am by now. So just to explain what cancer is, it's largely just a large group of diseases that arise from abnormal cells that will grow in the body and then tend to grow abnormally and become uncontrollable. Now, these cells will grow beyond their usual boundaries and they can spread and invade to other organs of the body. Neoplasm, as well as malignant tumor, is another term that refers to cancer. Next slide. So cancer is currently the leading cause of death in the whole world. According to the WHO, which is the World Health Organization guidelines, it accounts for approximately 10 million deaths in 2020. In males, the most common cancers are lung cancer, prostate, colorectal, stomach, and liver cancers. In females, it is breast, lung cancer, cervical cancer, colorectal, as well as thyroid cancer. Next slide. So when we talk about modifying key risk factors in our daily lives that can reduce the risk of getting the cancer, it can be reduced up to 30 to 50%. And these are varying activities in our normal daily lives, like exercising regularly, not smoking, limiting the use of alcohol, getting a human papillomavirus vaccine and a hepatitis B vaccine, and living a healthy, balanced lifestyle with eating well-balanced vegetables, as well as your main sources of foods like the protein, carbohydrates, your starches. And I'd like to just refer back to the case of Liesel, where she is a young female who's not smoking and a fitness lady who did contract lung cancer. So in this slide, it's just to highlight that not all cancers will follow the normal trends of what has been found and what has been investigated. And these are simply risks to reduce the chances of cancer, but will not necessarily stop the cancer from developing. Next slide. So in terms of cancer management, there are many cancers in the body and they are managed differently depending on the stage of the disease, the tumor type, as well as the patient clinical factors, because we manage the patient as a whole. We have to consider things like, do you have a high blood pressure, diabetes, any other comorbidities that would also impact on the kind of treatment that we would offer. But generally, we would want to offer treatment to either operate, offer chemotherapy, immunotherapy, or radiotherapy. And the sequencing will depend on the type of cancer as well as the stage of cancer. And before I move on, we know that reducing the cancer burden would be to ensure that screening is done so that precancerous lesions are picked up early, and also to pick up the early cancers that can be treated with a curative intent. However, even cancers that are picked up at stage 4, they can still be managed and we can still control the disease for as long as we can, helping the patient to improve their quality of life for as long as we can. And we have seen that depicted in our two ladies in their cases where they are living a life to the full with their stage 4 cancers, which was quite commendable. And it makes us proud as clinicians when we see the work that we do actually having a positive impact in the patients. We don't always work all alone in isolation. We need a multidisciplinary team of professionals to help us work together in order to form a treatment plan for our patients. And we have to work together along with the family to support the patient to go through all the different stages of the treatment, as well as the different side effects that are related to the treatment that we would offer the patients. Next slide. And just to highlight, palliative care is quite important. And I like what Lizelle had mentioned in her presentation with her sister, that the communication with the family and the support within the family, the two roles work hand in hand, because we want to improve the quality of the patient getting the treatment, and also the quality of the family caring for the patient, because it's not about just giving the treatment and it's a one fix and then that's it. With cancer patients, it's completely different because our relationship is lifelong. We did mention in the previous speakers that it is a lifelong commitment. Even patients that have early cancer, we still follow them up completely, and it's a long-term follow-up because we have to detect, is the cancer coming back? Is there any new cancer that is developing? And we also are managing the long-term adverse effects of the treatments that we are offering, being chemotherapy related or radiotherapy related adverse effects that we would look out for. So in summary, cancer management requires a holistic team, and that also includes the members of the family to help the patient that is needing the support. And we all walk hand in hand to support one another to get to the end goal that we would like to achieve with the patient support. I think it's very important to understand that each cancer is treated differently, and also the outcome that we expect. We have a certain outcome that we expect, but not every time we get that outcome. So we always have to be realistic in the goals that we set, as well as listening to what the patient would want, because it is all about what the patient is comfortable in. And we all walk together in supporting the patient. And the achievements that you two ladies have achieved are also our achievement. I'm very proud of the both of you. Your stories are so encouraging, and I hope for the best for your journeys. And just to know that we as the clinicians are there for you in every way, and we wish nothing but success, that we all beat this disease. And I wish you all the best, and thank you very much for sharing your stories with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was really good to hear it from your side, and you didn't make it too overcomplicated or scary for all of us to understand. So thank you for speaking on a level that we can understand. Can I just ask, where does your interest with cancer and working in oncology come from?
So prior to my identifying that I have an interest in oncology, I was working in surgery, and I came across cancer patients in our surgery follow-up clinics, because most of the cancers will be seen by the surgeons, and then the surgeons will diagnose, get the biopsy, and refer to oncology. So every time I saw patients coming back from the oncology center and coming for follow-ups, I was interested, because unfortunately, in the undergrad, we didn't get much exposure of oncology. And I was interested to know, what is it that they do for these patients that make the patients come back? And I visited the department, and I was actually quite interested in how we can actually do a lot for cancer patients. A cancer is not a death sentence. It's just like how it was said by the previous speakers. It's like diabetes, hypertension. It's a chronic disease that can be managed. If diagnosed early, it can be cured. But if it's also diagnosed at the stage 4, we can still manage and control it for as long as we can. So that really interested me, and I was very interested in the fantastic work that can be done for these cancers. And patients can live very, very long, even with stage 4 disease.
It's great to hear your passion for it and your positivity around that. I think your patients are so lucky to have someone like you that really has a passion about bettering their lives and improving their health and giving them the strength to keep going. We've just had a question here and it says, thank you for the presentation. Have you noticed any trends in ages of diagnosis of patients? Are patients being diagnosed at younger ages?
So to answer that, we've got 2 factors that we can look at. We can look at the fact that we've got now better investigating tools where we've got very good scans that could pick up lesions earlier on, as well as the awareness. People are not shying back if they feel a lump or anything abnormal or unusual. They are now coming forth seeking medical attention. And that is what we are trying to still achieve in some communities and some part of the country, where we would like people to come forth if there's a lump that is felt, to not wait too long until it has grown too big, because we know some cancers we don't have a lot of time and we would need to act quickly to be able to salvage things. And I picked that up with Lizelle, where she said it was too quickly for her to decide anything. And I can understand the oncologist or the surgeon that lung cancer is quite an aggressive cancer. So they wanted to get things done quickly to not miss the window of actually doing something. And I'm very glad that they acted very quickly, because you've done very well. And I admire your bravery for actually opting to have the operation and not having that anxiety overwhelming you and not allowing yourself to give yourself the chance. Because sometimes with the anxiety and everyone else around you telling you all sorts of stories, you can shy away from a chance of actually benefiting from a treatment of option that has been offered. So I think it is that. And then also we've got HIV as a background, and that also predisposes to other kinds of cancers that were not necessarily seen before, as well as the human papillomavirus, for example, that has been now on the rise in South Africa in particular, where something like vulval cancers or cervical cancers were not seen as commonly before, but with the rising incidence of human papillomavirus, that also predisposes even further to certain types of malignancies, just to mention an example. Thank you.
Thank you, Maury. I can see that your hand is up. Would you like to unmute yourself and ask our beautiful doctor a question?
Hi. Yeah, I just want to actually add to something you've said. It's not really a question, but you were saying quite early on in your presentation that you can't always predict. You gave the factors to try and lower your risk, but it's not always for sure predictable. I just wanted to add to that, because I was a textbook patient. I caught it early. I went in immediately. I had 6 months of the standard chemo that you get for breast cancer. I had a common type of breast cancer. I had a bilateral mastectomy. I did everything. I did back in 2015. It was not average to do holistic treatment. I had a holistic doctor working with the oncologist. I did everything I could possibly have done. After my mastectomy, I had no lymph node involvement. And up until now, I still don't, which is scary, because I always thought that was the golden ticket. If your lymph is clean, it can't spread. And even though I was, after the double mastectomy, I was deemed cancer-free because I was high risk for recurrence. I had whole left chest wall radiation, 25 sessions, which is not average for someone who had clean lymph nodes and a bilateral mastectomy. And yet mine still progressed. I caught it earlier. I did everything I was supposed to have done. And sometimes, as you said correctly, I just want to reiterate that we can definitely do things to lower our risk, but there's no guarantees. And I've ended up with breast cancer has different types, as you well know. And treatment with breast cancer varies from different type to different type. It's quite important to know which type of breast cancer you have. I've been stage 4 for 4 years now. I've not had any activity that was biopsyable. We tried to do a biopsy on my hip and it failed. So we don't actually even know what type of breast cancer I have. And the treatments, I think for oncologists and for medical teams, it's literally, some days it feels like they're just taking a sort of, it's not their fault because you don't have the information at hand, but you sort of do a best guess scenario and try, and sometimes it works, but it must be quite frustrating because it's not a black and white situation.
I would agree with you there. And Maria, I'd really commend you on the excellent insight that you have around your cancer. And I think that's very, very commendable, because then it makes you understand everything and all the motions with cancer. Indeed, with the risk factors, there are just risks. It isn't a blueprint that it will definitely be this. And also to remember that there's also familial breast cancer as well that I didn't mention in the presentation, and also cancer that happens by chance, which we term sporadic. And when the patient has a particular cancer, there are different types, like you rightfully so said. In breast cancer in particular, we have hormonal types of breast cancers, and we also have the HER2 enriched breast cancers, and those have different level of aggressiveness, if I can put it in simple terms. And when the patient is being followed up, it's for that particular reason, to catch the recurrences that can occur, because even 10 years later, 20 years later, cancer could still recur. And you did mention in your talk that there was a time where the tumor marker actually helped the clinician, because on CT scan it was not seen. And of course, that is one flaw that we have, because CT scan cannot pick up a lesion that is sub-centimeter, which is less than a centimeter. If it's too small to pick up, it will not be able to pick it up. And hence we try using tumor markers, and not all cancers have tumor markers for us to monitor. And some people, they don't have tumor markers that are raised to begin with, because the tumor marker can only work if at the beginning it was raised, and then we monitor it to check treatment response. And it can also help us when we are doing surveillance at the end of treatment to see if it rises, then it raises concerns for us to investigate. So I'm so glad that you've brought that up again, just so that we outline it and clarify that within each cancer, there are different types of breast cancers, and we try to use different tools to catch out this cancer as early as we can. But unfortunately, sometimes we cannot if we don't have the tumor markers, or if within the patient, they don't express any tumor markers for us to pick up.
Thank you so much, ladies. It's really good to hear both sides, well, three sides really, from a doctor, a patient, and a caregiver, because I think there is that whole holistic view. Everyone is involved in it together. And so it is important to hear everyone's side of the journey. We just have two quick questions, and then I'm just going to go around to each of you just for your closing thoughts. There's a question here that says, is a blood test the earliest way for detecting any cancer?
No, there isn't a blood test specifically, because like we said, there are different tumor markers for each site, but there's no specific blood test at this stage. We hope in the future we'll be able to have something of that sort, but currently we do not have that.
Okay, thank you. It's good to know. And then the last question for the evening, there's a lot of focus on breast and prostate cancer. Should we be doing more to increase awareness of other common cancers in South Africa? And also with that, what are the more common cancers in SA?
So we certainly should be looking at awareness of all the different types of cancers, but the focus is breast and prostate, because the breast is the most common, mainly for the females, as well as The prostate is the most common for male patients, but that's just in the broad categories. We still have other cancers in the female. It's not only breast, it's also lung cancer and cervical cancer. Colorectal cancers are quite common. In the males, it would be mainly prostate cancer, lung cancer, as well as colorectal. So cancer awareness for all cancers should be advocated, but it's not feasible to screen everyone for every cancer, because then you don't want to start unnecessary anxiety in patients and also over treating, because all these screening tests and biopsies also come at a cost, as well as it has their morbidities in terms of side effects to the patients. And also there can be false positive results and false negative results. So it's all of that we need to try and get an understanding of. And at this point, a lot of work has done and has gone into breast cancer as well as prostate cancer in terms of the screening, and it's quite controlled. So we try to raise awareness for all the cancer sites, but it's not feasible realistically to do all the cancers.
Thank you. It's good to know that, and it's good to know that cancer as a whole, it needs to be spoken about. It needs to be something that we are checking. We need to go have our boobies checked. We need to go to the doctor. If we feel that something's wrong, go to a doctor. We know our bodies better than anyone else possibly could. So follow your gut and go for it. If I can just ask each of you just to give a little closing thought just after tonight. We'll start with our doctor, and then we'll move to Liesel and Lo Marie, and then finish with Marie at the end. Thank you.
Okay, would just sum up to say, cancer is a disease that can be managed, and depending on the stage, it either can be cured. If not cured, there's still a lot that can be done. It's not a death sentence, and we are here, as well as all the other cancer professionals that are available to assist in cancer patients throughout their journeys, along with their families as well. And I would encourage people to come forth so that we are able to help as best as we can. And thank you again to our speakers of the evening. And I hope that your journeys with your cancer will go well with the support of your families. And thank you again to your families for bearing the brunt and rolling with the punches.
Thank you so much, Doc. You are wonderful. Lo Marie and Liesel, would you mind giving your closing thoughts after tonight?
I must say, I think we've covered all bases. I don't think we can add much more to what has already been said tonight, except that, people should just keep on fighting the good fight, because it's very rewarding at the end of the day.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Marie, are you available to give your closing thoughts after tonight?
Yes, but it might be a bit of a strange thought. I really appreciate all the positivity, and I'm really happy that we're all focusing on the positive, but I am a little bit concerned that we might be making it seem less, less serious than it is. Especially with metastatic breast cancer, we don't even keep stats in South Africa. So we don't even know how many people. They usually quote stats from America, and it's something like 150 women or something that die every single day because of something as stupid as breast cancer. And we, in a way, while I'm extremely happy because we're all such positive winners, if you want to call it that, I am a little bit worried that people think all stage 4 disease looks like this. And that's the Liesel was talking about the mind thing with cancer. I've had discussions with people on the cancer groups where we're on the same drug, and I look the way I do and the next person looks like they're at their store. unfortunately, just like the disease is a very individual thing, the way your body responds to treatment is a very individual thing. And I want everyone to be positive, and I want everyone to know it's not necessarily a death sentence, but it also feels like I'm being dishonest about the people who have passed on. And it sometimes feels like I'm losing friends in my support groups almost every day. So, yeah, I mean, having lived despite it for 6 years, it gets tiring. It's not all just fun and games, and it's not all just people winning, and people get diagnosed and all of a sudden it takes just a month and they're gone. So yeah, I know it's a horrible, sobering thought, but I just, yeah, it's do what you can, enjoy your life. Don't not get tested, don't not get looked at, but yeah, don't stress about it too much and just do what you can.
Thank you so much. And I think the reality of living with cancer is something that we can't understand until we go through it ourselves. And you're right, and I absolutely agree with you saying that it's great to be positive, but you also need to realize the implications of being diagnosed with cancer. And those things that you go through every single day that people don't see, when you're feeling so rotten that you actually can't get out of bed, or when the chemo has hit you so hard, or when you have to go for another biopsy or another test or another doctor's visit. It gets a lot to cope with. So I just really want to applaud you ladies and thank you for your strength. Thank you for your vulnerability, for your honesty. It's really been an absolute honor to have you here and to hear your stories. And I think you are so brave and so wonderful. Thank you to everyone who has joined us, who's interacted, who's asked the questions. Remember that tomorrow is World Cancer Day. So let's all work together to try and create awareness. Let's have those hard conversations. Go to the doctor and be checked if you're worried about a lump that you felt, or if you're not feeling yourself. And let's have 2022 be a healthy year, and a year that we listen to our bodies and take care of ourselves. So thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate you joining in, and we'll see you at our next webinar. Thank you so much. Bye.